On today's episode, I tell you 5 regretful purchases I made in my 20s, so hopefully you avoid the same mistakes. Hello everyone, I am Ethan Rushock, and on today's episode I'm going to be going through 5 purchases I made in my early 20s that I regret. And what I'm hoping to do by this is make sure you don't make those same mistakes. Now, for those that are new to the channel, you won't realise this, but hopefully those that have watched it previously will notice the new setup that's going on here. So I've spent most of the day setting this up, and I'm really excited to share it with everyone. Please leave a comment on what you think of it. And if you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Anyway, let's get into the video. So number 1 is upgrading my cars too early. So I had a perfectly good car heading into my 20s, and at about 21 years old I thought, oh, I've got a good job now, let's go purchase a new car. So what I did was overcapitalize, spent too much, got a good car, but then went and got a car loan. So that was the second mistake within that one purchase. So not only did I buy a car when I didn't really need to, because the one I had was perfectly fine, I also didn't have a lot of deposit, so I financed nearly all of that. So what happened here, I'm paying a ridiculously high interest rate, one, due to my age, didn't have much credit history, the amount I was borrowing, the type of car, etc. And 2, I've purchased something that, yes, I like it, but I didn't need it. So I've gone and bought a car that was, I think, about 15 grand worth more than what my previous car was valued at the time, but didn't really achieve a lot out of it. So then I made the even worse mistake by going and upgrading that again a few years later. So again, I kept working my way up, getting more and more expensive cars, but not allowing myself the time to build up the equity or build up a deposit to pay for these in cash. So again, I was financing them again, and now I'm onto my 3rd car since I initially got my license. And while yes, I love it and I still have it today, it wasn't needed. I could have still had that first car and still got around safely from A to B. So I think you've got to be really careful when you purchase cars in your early 20s. Think about, is the car you've got now reliable? Is it safe? Is it efficient on costs? If it is, then keep that. Now, if it doesn't suit those 3 things, then you may consider upgrading. So at least try and have the funds to cover most of that purchase. You don't want to be financing the full car purchase in your early 20s. It's just going to cost you a lot in the long run. And by the time you're there, you're going to get in that mindset of, I'll just keep upgrading, getting new loans, and you may never actually own a car outright in your life. Number 2 was actually a robotic vacuum cleaner. Now, obviously, this is a very particular example, but my point is, large electronic purchases, make sure you do the research first. So I obviously wanted one of these. I went into the store and pretty much bought the first one I seen for about $1,000. Didn't do the research into it, and I ended up using it twice, I think. Thought this technology is nowhere near what I was expecting, and then sold it about 12 months later for about $200. So it cost me $800 to do 2 cleans to my house. Didn't really clean the house very well either. I could have got a cleaner weekly and it might not have even cost me that much. So yeah, I think you've really got to think about big electronic purchases, and the big thing to learn from here is the technology actually practical for use in the home today? There's lots of great technologies that are coming out, but quite often it takes a few years of them being in the market before they're actually, 1, at a price point that's decent, and 2, actually ready for general everyday use. And I don't think this was at the time. So number 3 is buying too much takeout food. So while I do enjoy going out for a meal, and I think there's more value in that, the actual takeout food where you get it, you come home and you eat it, it never tastes overly great by the end of it. It's not healthy for you and it's so expensive. So each time you go buy takeout food, you're looking at $10, $15, $20 versus probably $2, $3, $5 to do a meal at home yourself. So this adds up over time. So I've had times in my 20s where I'm good at this and don't spend a lot on it, and then other times I'll be buying it 2, 3 times a week. And really, you don't get a lot of satisfaction out of it either. It's expensive, it's unhealthy, and it's just unsatisfying in general. Spend that money on going out on a meal with friends or a date night, etc., or invest that money. Let's do something better with it than just buying takeout food. Number 4 is my gym membership. Now, at times this has been a great purchase for me, but there's been times where I've gone long periods of time without using it. So then I wish I had to put it on hold or cancel it when I knew I wasn't going to use it for an extended period of time. So for instance, if I'm playing competitive sport, I may be training twice a week, playing on a weekend, I'm not going to have a lot of time to go to the gym, so why not put it on hold for those 6 months? and I haven't thought ahead on those at times. So even at the moment, as I write this, I've got my membership and I'm actually nursing a broken leg that I'm recovering from and have been on that for 8 weeks, and I actually haven't used my membership pre that due to playing soccer and the COVID lockdown, etc. So I actually haven't been to the gym for probably 6 months and paid my membership that whole time, minus the few weeks they were closed during the COVID lockdown. So I probably spent $150, $200, $300. I don't really want to actually calculate it exactly. What better uses I could have made of that money if that had been invested in the stock market in that time, if it had just been in a savings account, if it had been really anywhere, it would have been more beneficial to me than a membership I'm not using. Number 5 is my house. Now, while I think buying a house was a good decision at the time, the actual house I bought, as much as it has been a good house to me, I wish I had looked into it more. So I probably overpaid by maybe 10 to 15 grand on this house, and it was the first house I looked at. I wanted to get out of the rent game and I purchased it straight away. So I'm lucky enough I'm in a small country town where housing prices aren't overly expensive, but I still wish I had either bargained down on the price or looked around more to see what other options might have been better suited to me. When you buy a house in your early 20s, it also locks you into place. So it makes it much harder to move to another town or move in with a partner, etc. Because you've then got to make the decision, do you rent the house out or do you try and sell the house? So if you try and rent it out, is it really suited to being a rental? Or if you try and sell it, you've already paid stamp duty on purchase, conveyancing fees, etc. You may now have to pay conveyancing fees on sale, real estate agent commission. And then if you're going to buy another house, you're back into paying all those purchase costs again, maybe just to move to a similar house in a different town. So I think you've just got to think long term when you purchase a house. Is it the right decision for you? Are you going to stay in that town or suburb that you're in forever? And also, if you're not sure about those kind of things, but you still want to purchase a house, buy something you know will make a good investment. That way you're getting a bit of the best of both worlds. You can live in for a while, and then you can go rent it out later and know that that's what the house was long-term bought for. So as you can see, there are 5 purchases I've made during my early 20s that I regret. I've learnt lessons from them though, so that takes away some of that regret. As you can see, most of them stem from not thinking things through, not researching them enough, and making big decisions without necessarily giving it the proper thought process, or just being purely lazy in the instance of the food or the gym memberships. Alright, now I want to hear from you. What's the one purchase that you've made in your early 20s that you regret the most? What do you wish you had done with that money instead? As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.